How's it going, everybody? Austin Carter here with Attack Line Leather, and today on this Tooling Tuesday I'm going to be showing my process of some floral design. Here I'm just showing real quick some of the tools that I use to draw out everything. As you noticed, I was using a 9XXB pencil. It leaves really dark lead, and really I don't use that a lot. I use the 8B pencil, but because 8B does not show up very well in video, I decided to just go darker and draw it out directly onto this leather. As you saw, I had my trusty erasers, just a normal eraser I bought from Hobby Lobby, along with that circle grid that I use to lay out my designs. I'm using about 9-ounce Herman Oak Veg Tan leather. As you saw, I used my spray bottle to case it, and I'm using a Berry King swivel knife to cut out my design. Because I am showing a full process tooling, I am going to speed it up about 300%, or else this video would be a couple hours long at least. But I'm glad that y'all were able to stop in and watch this video. If you are a new subscriber, I really appreciate your support. If you've been with me from the beginning, again, I really appreciate y'all's support. If you haven't already, consider subscribing. I tried to upload when I can. I'm a pretty busy person. Leathercraft is not my career. I am a career firefighter and family man, and so those come first, but I do my best to upload often enough to keep people's attention. If you have any questions or anything like that, go ahead and leave me a comment, and I'll be happy to do my best to answer those questions. I always case my leather before I cut with a swivel knife. It just makes the process so much easier. A key is to have a sharp swivel knife, and as you saw in the beginning, I stropped it, just cleaning up the blade and getting it smooth so it cuts through the leather like butter. Berry King, if you haven't used it, they have great tools, especially their swivel knives and blades, and it's now a staple of what I use on my leather projects. And what I'm tooling today is going to be, eventually it's going to be a notebook cover. I did a video on that several videos ago. If you'd like to check that out, I'll leave a link up in the description. But it's a really simple project. You can make it as complex or as simple as you deem fit, and I'd consider it a nice starter project for new leather crafters because it really doesn't take a whole lot of tools. You have a nice large surface to use for your artwork if you so choose, but stamping names, basket stamping works really well for these projects. Alright, so I finished cutting out my design, and now I am taping the back of my project, getting ready for tooling. And the reason I do this is because as you stamp the leather will expand because you're displacing the leather with every stamp, and so it keeps the leather from warping and becoming unsightly. It also allows you to get deeper impressions, which is something you really like to have in leather work. I always start my projects by defining my edges. I'm using a craft tool, larger checkered beveler here, and that's kind of the tool I use on the edges because I really like to frame out my project early, and so that's why I start with this. Again, I'm gonna probably speed through a lot of the repetition parts of the video just because this video would be extremely long, and I don't want to keep you here overly long. But I hope just watching my process that you'll gain something from it. A lot of times that's what I've heard, just people they just want to know or see and visualize the steps and how something is done. And so I've done my best with this video to include everything from start to finish. I did not include the drawing mainly because everyone's going to be different. Everyone has their own style. Everyone is on a different learning curve. And so I'm just showing the tooling section of this, and I really hope that inspires you and maybe gives you some new ideas and furthers you in the craft. Here I'm using a medium Craft Tool Pro beveler. I've been using this beveler for several years now. Tandy had a sale when they were selling Craft Tool Pros, and I picked it up for fairly inexpensive, but it's kind of something I've always hung on to and really enjoyed using, and so I haven't picked up a Berry King or something like that. I keep hearing from all my leathercraft buddies that I need to go Berry King, but it works for me, and so that's what I'm using right now. But if you can find one, I'd say pick it up. It's worked really well. It's high quality, and it's really easy to use. Here I am tooling out my cactus. If you want me to go more in depth on this, I do have a couple videos about how I tool my cactus. There's a tooling cactus part 1, and then I kind of changed up my process and did a cactus called Cactus Practice 2.0, and I kind of tweaked my design and how I shaded the cactus. And so if you're interested in more of that, you can go watch those videos, but you'll see kind of the process here with how I do that. Generally in a piece, I always start with the focal point, and in this case it is the cactus. If it was flowers, I'd do the flowers first, or leaves, and I really just want to get those instilled in the project so that they stand out and I can start working around them. But then after that, I just start tooling all the vining, and I always start with beveling. It's just something that has to get done. As you may know, I'm a follower of Don Gonzalez, and he has some really great videos and insights on how he tools. Everyone has their own process. He has a great one, and I haven't completely adopted it yet. He uses some different lifters and some different tools for his process. It would be something that I would just have to sit down and try and work into my day-to-day workflow. But as of right now, I bevel everything first, and that tends to work for me. When I am doing my vine work, one of the things that you'll see me do is I kind of start from where the swivel knife cut ends back to the beginning of the vine, and I tap lightly. I know you might not be able to see that very well because of the speed. Again, sorry about that. This video would just be incredibly long if I slowed it down, but I tap lighter to heavier as I go along. And what you're trying to do is just create that nice 3D effect and get everything to flow and just look appealing to the eye. Again, I appreciate y'all so much for following along and subscribing and commenting. I really enjoy interacting with y'all. I could talk shop all day long. If you have any suggestions for videos, please leave them down in the comments. I'd love to I'd love to make what y'all want to see. Sometimes I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants, and I just go through just projects that I want to do and try and keep up that way. But if you have any suggestions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. And if it's something I'm able to do, I'd be happy to do it. One thing that I'd note is if there's a request and there's a ton of YouTube videos on that, I probably most likely won't do it. For instance, like saddle stitching, I've had many requests to do that. Guys, saddle stitching is just a YouTube search away. Everybody has a video on saddle stitching. And so if it's a pretty common skill or something, there's probably a YouTube video. I want to make sure I just, don't waste my time and maybe save y'all some time. Here I'm using a Craft Tool Pro bar grounder, and this is what I'm using for my backgrounding tool. When you use this, the goal is to tap as few times as possible. And so what you'll see me do is kind of walk the tool, trying not to stamp in the same place twice. You'll get a nice even stamp when you do it this way. When you're doing this process, if you're new to it, take it slow, because sometimes it's hard for beginners to pick out what is a background and what is not. If you're having trouble with that, before you start using your bar grounder or background or anything like that, take your 8B pencil or take a pencil, and you can, before you even start, slowly go through and you can maybe put a little mark where a background is. You can do this, and if you mess up, it's no problem. You can erase the mark. But the goal is to, be accurate, and if you background something that's not supposed to be background, it can really throw off a project and become an eyesore. And to the untrained eye, it might not be much, but to the trained eye, it'll stick out, and then again, you'll always know it's there. And so, as always, we want to try and do our best. We are craftsmen, and I think all of us can agree we want to hold ourselves to higher standards. And again, we're all learning. I'm still learning constantly, and that's just the name of the game with leathercraft. Alrighty, so as I said before, kind of gonna go over again how I shade my cactus and kind of add the shading effect to all my vine work. Here I'm using the thumbprint tool. I'm using the smaller end of it, and I find that I can get into tighter spaces with that end, and I kind of like the look. And what I'm doing here is just tilting it back a bit so that I'm not leaving the full impression of the tool. I'm just catching that one end, and I'm kind of giving the cactus a bit of shade and just more of that 3D effect that we're all trying to achieve. And if you noticed throughout this whole tooling process, my goal was to use as few stamping tools as possible. I think I only used 4 stamps this entire thing, and really I could have narrowed it down to 3 if I didn't use that first large stamp to stamp out the border. And so that just kind of goes to show, if you have a process, you don't need to go spend a ton of money on a bunch of tools. I do have a bunch of stamps. I've just kind of gradually got them, but honestly, I only use maybe 10 of them regularly. For this project, again, I used 3, and I use some of them in different ways. And so it's just you'll find your workflow, and you'll find what works best for your style. And it doesn't mean I don't want more stamps, and I could incorporate many more into this project that I have. But I really wanted to show that you don't need a huge arsenal to get the work done. You can do this with a few tools. When I do my vine work, I make sure I'm still using that smaller end of the thumbprint, and I'm beveling harder and letting it kind of glide to a softer point, and that just kind of gives that shade effect. This is one of those tools that you have to kind of take your time using, and it's kind of a finesse tool. As you see, I'm with my thumb and forefinger, I'm rotating with the artwork. It does take some hand-eye coordination. It does take some practice, and so just the best way to do that, obviously, is to draw out some work, make yourself some swirls, and really just get to know how to use your tools. And the biggest thing that I was taught was start drawing for your tools. So your artwork, if some people write small, some people write big. If you are a small drawer, the difficulty of your tooling increases. And so it's kind of finding that happy medium between your artwork and what your tools can handle to create the effect that you're going for. And I'm still learning this. There's still mistakes that I do with my drawing, and it's just one of those learning things. You try and learn the first time, and try not to repeat it. So the last step that I do on a project is doing all the decorative cuts. As you can see, I'm using my Berry King swivel knife, and I've used it to cut in the cactus thorns and burrs, and which you can really use a swivel knife to really expand the amount of intricacy in your artwork. Here I am doing some kind of cross hatches on my little vines, and you can really do a ton with a swivel knife. Again, the key is just practice and trying different things. I hope with this video that maybe you'll learn something. I hope you create your own techniques and your own look. Alright guys, well I really appreciate you watching this video. I hope you learned something from it. I hope I was able to inspire you. That's kind of the name of the game with me. I was just really excited when I was first introduced to leathercraft, and from there it's just kind of been one of those things that I've kind of always wanted to talk about with people or show them, because it's a really cool hobby or craft or business, whatever phase you're in. And so again, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the feedback that I get from you. I appreciate the subscribers, all the support that you give. We're almost to 9,000 subscribers. I really never even thought I'd get that far. Again, this is just something for me. It's an outlet for me to share, and I just enjoy the process. Again, if you are interested in leathercraft, consider subscribing. There's a ton of other leathercrafters that I'd recommend for you to subscribe to, and there's just a wealth of knowledge out there. But if you like what I do, go ahead and subscribe. If you want to see more of my work that I don't post on YouTube, you can go follow me on my Instagram at AttackLionLeather. I post on there pretty regularly, and you can follow the work that I'm currently doing and my stories there. But as always, guys, I appreciate y'all, and I hope y'all stay safe and have a great day.